could the pipeline stocks finally be ready to get some lift, even as the price of oil is getting slammed here? Take Enbridge, the Canadian company that operates the longest, most sophisticated crude oil and liquids transportation system on Earth. They carry the vast majority of the crude that the United States imports from Canada. They also have a fantastic natural gas network, courtesy its acquisition of Spectra Energy. And they have a nice sideline in renewables with a portfolio of wind, solar, and geothermal power generation assets. When Donald Trump won the election in 2016, a lot of people figured that his pro-fossil fuel, pro-construction policies would be a huge boon for the pipeline industry, but it sure hasn't quite worked out that way. Earlier this year, we got a regulatory ruling that hurt the whole industry. Plus, these stocks are all high-yielding dividend names. Enbridge has a 5.8% yield, so they were getting punished because rates were rising. But in the last few weeks, Enbridge has finally caught some lift, thanks to a couple of different catalysts. In late June, they got some important approvals from the state of Minnesota for a new pipeline project. Then last week, we learned that Enbridge is selling its natural gas gathering division to Brookfield Infra for $4.3 billion in Canadian dollars. Put it all together, and the stock has now roared 22% from its lows in late April. So could this stock be ready to roar? Or do we need to be concerned that the recent rally could run out of steam now that the price of oil's come back down? Let's take a closer look with Al Monaco. He's the president and CEO of Enbridge. Find out more about how his company is doing and where it is headed. Mr. Monaco, welcome back to Mad Money.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having us back.
Al, it's been more than a year now since you closed the biggest deal you've ever done, Spectra. I want to get a sense on what it's done for your company and what it means for the future.
For sure, Jim. Well, if you roll back the tape a little bit here, we were pretty much a single purpose, although a very strong single purpose focus on the liquids pipelines business out of Western Canada and into the U.S. We essentially transformed that picture into one that now includes what we think is the best natural gas franchise business in North America. Plus, we added another utility. So we've got a very large utility base, gas utility base now in North America, one of the largest and fastest growing, frankly. So we're set up really well for the future.
You've also made some dramatic changes. You've done your best, sell some non-core assets, get that debt picture better, but you've also simplified your structure, something that I'm really thrilled about. It makes it much easier to understand what Enbridge has, really what you're getting with Enbridge. These were necessary, right, both because of how much money you had to spend to get Spectra, but also because you had these MLPs that, frankly, can't get their cost of capital lower.
Exactly right. As you know, Jim, very well, the MLPs have done a good job, I think, for us over the last number of years, but certainly over the last 2 to 3, the cost of capital really hasn't been effective. On top of that, we think having a simplified structure, one that hosts one investable entity, which has great infrastructure assets in it, is the best way to go. We get some financial benefits out of it. We retain more cash in the business. So overall, we think this is a great outcome for us. We're in the roll-up process now, and hopefully that'll be done in not too distant future.
At one time, these were such great pieces of paper. Individuals loved them for the tax benefits. The oil companies loved them. Natural gas companies loved them for the drop-down benefits. Do you think they'll ever come back?
You know, we can never say never. At least our outlook at the moment is for the foreseeable future. The best structure for us is to have one investable entity, as I said, that has a lot of benefits to it as well. So who knows? We'll see what happens. For now, we think this is the best way to go, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Now, in your presentation earlier this year, you talked about further asset sales potential. You've been making them. I mean, you've been able to find buyers for pretty much everything. You still got some more things you want to sell to make that balance sheet even better?
Well, great question, Jim. So if you just go back a little bit, at the end of last year, we rolled out our strategic plan, which basically said we want to focus our efforts on our 3 big franchises, which is essentially a pipeline and utility business model. So when you look at it from that perspective, the next phase is let's look at our asset base and see what's core and non-core and what we can actually monetize for good value. So we had a look at that post-Spectra closing, and we concluded that the G&P business, the gathering processing business, although a strong business, really didn't fit the business model that well. So it became a capital allocation decision. We looked at our hold value for the assets, and we saw some good opportunity to try and generate some excess value for us, and I think we've done that with these asset sales. We had a $3 billion target. We're now at $7.5 billion. Not only does that on strategy per se, it also generates some very good financial flexibility for us going forward. $7.5 billion in asset sales, even though we're a large company, is nothing to sneeze at, so that gives us great financial flexibility.
Now, you've also been doing a lot to broaden the possibilities for export for our country. I look at what you're doing. You are the most forward-looking company in trying to take advantage of what is a tremendous glut of natural gas. I listened to the president today, talking to President Putin. I started realizing that one of the things that's happened with Europe is that they could have used our natural gas. Are you bullish about the prospects of exporting natural gas? And it looks like Enbridge has to do the heavy lifting.
Well, that was one of the main reasons, frankly, Jim, for pursuing the Spectra deal. Very much a natural gas strategy focus for us. And you've hit the nail on the head again. We see a huge opportunity for natural gas growth in this country. Very much a low-cost supplier, technology-driven, bringing costs down overall in the industry. And now the opportunity is, how can we build infrastructure? And it's all got to be pointed, at least in our view, in the future, Jim, in terms of gaining export markets, gaining global market share for what we have here in North America, which is a tremendous competitive advantage in energy. So it's all about pointing that infrastructure to capitalize on that advantage and gain export market share on a global energy basis.
You've always had a great, open, really fantastic website. Everyone can know what you're about. I would be remiss not to talk about these gigantic renewable projects you're doing. It seems like you've got the largest wind projects going on in the world right now.
You know, it's a part of the strategy, Jim, only because we think that all forms of energy are going to be needed. It doesn't take away from conventional sources of energy. That's been the core business. But we think there's good opportunities to build out offshore renewables in particular going forward. And the best thing about them is they hit the middle of the fairway in terms of our business value proposition and risk reward. They come with long-term contracts, and that fits very well for us, and it comes with growth.
Well, I want to congratulate everything you've done for shareholders, and I love the simplification. It's such a good deal. Al Monaco, President and CEO of Enbridge, great to see you, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having us.
They just raised their dividend. This has got plenty of capacity to continue to raise their dividend, and it's a simple structure now. I like Enbridge. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.